Okay, here's some of the hardware that we want to make sure we get on hand, and it comes from several sources. And what I am deducing from just starting into it is that a lot of these materials, especially from the discount houses, are not quite what we want, not quite as come out with as good an end product as if we can use, of course, the best materials. Okay, I thought I ordered enough for 3 here, and I'll briefly describe what we kind of need. To embed the glass, originally it had a canvas or a webbed back, and I think the thicknesses could vary at the glass shop, but this is a 1/8 of an inch. This is 1/16 of an inch material, and it's got a canvas back on it. So actually a 1/16, and there's 12 feet of this, and that's supposed to be enough to do all the way around. This comes from vintage Ford Forum, Mitch Hartka. He sells it. I think it's 2 1/4 foot is what I paid it for it, and I'm glad I could get it. Vintique is rubber. I've read less than some people are very unhappy with just a straight rubber. Originally it had the backing on it. The backing goes against the frame, the rubber contacts the glass. One of the pieces of hardware that you can get reproduced, but these are the originals, are the frame corners. They fit into the top of the frame. They fit into the hinge part of the frame, and there's a smash place on the inside where it's jammed in, and basically, can you see my it's supposed to fit in there, and then there are 2 screws that screw into the side of the frame to hold it in place, and the compression or the compressed area holds the top together. And you want to make sure you got those on hand. Ones I've seen at the swap meet, and I think one of my frame sets I had to locate a set for them. So they're not with the set. You've got to get those. There are also fastener kits, and there are 2 screws on either side of the frame to hold this clip in place. So that's 4 screws, and they're flathead slotted screws, about 1/4 of an inch, and I don't know the dimension, but these are stainless. And then there are a nut, a hex nut, and a screw, and the screw is slightly domed, and that fits on the face of the frame to hold it, to go through this this side of the bracket, so that it helps lock it in place. The hex nut is held in place by weather stripping that goes on the side. So far we've talked about the screws, the embedding material, and I'd already told you I'm going to use Hartkas. And then there's a piece of weather stripping that it's called Windshield frame gasket, and that fits in the top of the that fits between the wood header and the hinge. There's a nice sketch, I think, in a hot rod about using this, and There's another gasket. This is called the windshield hinge gasket, and it's shaped different than the side and bottom. Pull it out. It's got a fat end that this tapered edge. I'll look into the layout for it. I'll see if I can get that sketch, and we'll discuss that next time so that we see where the gaskets fit. But this is one gasket for the top of the hinge. Okay, I'm dying here. That should get it out, Kristen. Frame gasket. This is a different one. Okay, here's a copy from my journal showing the diagram for the header, and it shows where the seal is, how the hinge is fastened. Should give you a fairly good idea of the layout. And you can find it on Ford Barn probably with a search, or make a sketch yourself. Should help you. Okay, this is a side gasket. Fits on both sides. This looks a little narrower than I'm used to seeing. I've got an original here, and it looks a little different than the original, but there's a flap of metal that clamps it in place on the sides and on the bottom, the arched bottom, and so it fits in there and then is clamped. I'll look at the I'm thinking that the way it would work is there's a groove side to this and then a ungrooved side, and I think the groove side is such that you clamp the metal together, the exposed part of the groove there, and then that'll hold it in place correct. But this seems awfully narrow, quite a bit narrower than I thought it would be. So we'll have to do some investigating here and see which actually is right. The wider one is called the windshield hinge gasket, so that I would assume is for the top, and it's got a different contour. You can see quite a bit of difference there, but it's held in, the screws that hold the hinge in place hold this in up next to the header, and if I remember right, I think there's a header cap that this probably seals between the hinge and the metal cap. You want to end up with a watertight fit there, and one solution is putting dum-dum into that gap. We'll get to that one day when we mount these, but for now we're just taking these steps. So, oh, and I wanted to show you the screws. You look them up in the catalogs, but I would stay with the stainless. That's what I'm doing. And they're this is out of C.W. Moss, and they're just small stainless screws. I don't think it makes any sense at all to put just steel in there. I think you want stainless. And if you're a real detailer, maybe just a drop of never sees in there. So